The corridor between Marias Pass and West Glacier, where the tracks run very close to the middle fork of the Flathead River. Flathead River is the boundary between Glacier Park and the Flathead National Forest. The cargoes that are most worrisome are the oil tankers. Any spills in the Flathead River by derailment or other factors could be disastrous to the ecosystem of that river.
First off, my name is Rob Moog, and I live right here in Joplin, Montana. We are at the top of the Golden Triangle, a wheat growing area from Great Falls to Shelby to Havre, and points, around the Golden Triangle. And we're about 100 miles north of Great Falls, and we are about 30 miles south of the Canadian border. And like I mentioned before, we're right at the top of the Golden Triangle, and the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad goes across the top of the Golden Triangle. And over the years, we've had many grain trains that not only haul the product that we raise here, dark northern spring wheat, winter wheat, barley, pulse crops that include peas and lentils and chickpeas, but also corn that comes from the Midwest, and other products. We don't know what they are, but you can see corn on top of the grain cars, so I know that there's corn going through here. And that's, there's been derailments, especially in Glacier Park. And after the Bakken discovery in North Dakota, gradually we started to see more oil trains coming through. And they come through day and night. And then, of course, there's the empties that are going back. So there's getting to be a little more, or I should say quite a bit more, oil traffic along the Burlington Northern Santa Fe. I know there was a derailment in North Dakota that caused a lot of damage. And I know that the fire departments along the BN track they've had some training in dealing with these oil train fires, but I don't know if you can ever have enough training to combat the devastation that can cause. And it probably would benefit everybody, or all the fire departments and EMTs along, we call it the High Line that the Burlington Northern runs on, to get more training that way. And I don't know, even though I belong to a volunteer fire department here in Joplin, I don't know that there's enough of that training or awareness of the dangers that we don't normally see in a grass fire or a house fire, as when you compare that to a large derailment and fire. because the railroad, the freight cars are so full of demand with oil and even corn coming out of the Midwest, there's times when the elevators have to dump the product that we raise here on the ground because they can't get cars, grain cars, to keep their elevators empty enough to take care of our harvest. And so that, and any time they have to handle grain more than once is an economic factor that is going to diminish the price of grain, because they have to think about, number one, dumping it on the ground. I think an elevator in Chester claimed that they had about $500,000 in equipment to dump grain on the ground, and then they had to pick it up. So that's another operation of dealing with that. And so that affects me as a farmer. I'm going to take a lower price. I know that. If oil spilled off the trackage in Glacier Park, especially coming down off of Marias Pass, it's not like grain where it kind of just stays put. That oil will actually spill into or flow into the water.
There have been several really, really terrible accidents, the one in Quebec, the one in North Dakota, which are not only spills, but the one in Quebec was just a complete catastrophe. And what are the measures that they could take? I mean, they know they're going to be doing this level of business, and they know how much it's increased since the oil boom, as it were. And it seems like they could, instead of waiting for these things to happen and chasing the safety, that when they've made all the new cars that carry the oil, did they make them as safe as they possibly could, or did they just do the minimum of what was required? And to me, that's the thing, is that it seems like to protect everyone who's along the route, and their employees, it's really incumbent upon them to make them not just the minimum of safety that they are required, but that they really make them so that if there is a crash or there is a spill, it minimizes the damage as much as possible. Instead of, I think that's something that needs to be done ahead of time when they're ramping up for this increase in their business, because obviously they're certainly not lacking for, they're making a lot of money on this. So it seems like they should be investing as well in the safety aspect of it, probably more than they are.
Freight train, run so fast. Freight train, run so fast. Please don't tell what train I'm on. They won't know what route I'm gone. When I die, Lord, bury me.
Hello, I'm Alan Oinus. I'm a retired locomotive engineer for Montana Rail Link. We're in Missoula at the roundhouse areas behind us of the Missoula Yard. I've spent 37 years in the employ of Montana Rail Link and Burlington Northern. Started out on the track department, then a brakeman and conductor, and I went to work for Montana Rail Link when they started in October of 1987. Before that, I was working for Burlington Northern in Livingston, Montana as a conductor. Prior to that, I was working in Havre and Great Falls on the High Line, and or not Great Falls, but Havre and Whitefish as a conductor and brakeman up there. What happens in the winter is broken rail, where the rail will freeze and break on one side, and all this the High Line and Montana Rail Link lines, the main lines are all wired for signals. So if a rail does break, we get a red block, and we need to go at a very reduced speed through that area until we're through that area. But if it should break after we go by the signal, why we have no way of knowing that it has broke, and that can be a cause of a derailment, obviously. Summertime, there's sun kinks that will just put a sharp little curve in the rail from the heat expanding the rail, and there's not enough rock to hold it in place. And those can cause major derailments also.
So my name is Adrienne Beck. I am the Director for the Office of Emergency Management here for Missoula County. We're actually a city-county department through an interlocal government agreement. The DES, or Disaster Emergency Services Coordinator, which is a role that I also fill, is for both the County of Missoula as well as the City of Missoula. My office is located in the basement of the Missoula County Courthouse, located here on 200 West Broadway, which is about 4 blocks south of the main rail line that comes through our county. I think part of our responsibility as DES coordinators or as emergency managers is to know what the risks are in our communities and to understand the frequency and the propensity at which they may occur. And so when we look at the hazards that could impact us here in Missoula, certainly any kind of train derailment, let alone a Bakken oil train derailment, is certainly one of those possibilities. And so to deal with that, we have developed what we call our Emergency Operations Plan, which is an all hazards plan and is designed to deal with all of the hazards that we face, not just Bakken oil. Bakken crude oil, as I understand it, and I'm not a chemist, but as it's been explained to me, is we often think of oil coming out of the ground as the black, thick, tarry stuff. And Bakken sweet crude oil is a much lighter, almost refined product coming straight out of the ground. So it is more similar to gasoline than it is to oil.
This ain't Hiroshima, this ain't Nagasaki, this is Bakken bomb trains blowing up your country. This ain't turban terrorists, this ain't just some tragedy, this is greedy good old boys blowing up your country.
Okay, first of all, my name is Charles Farmer. I'm the Disaster Emergency Services Coordinator and Director of the Office of Emergency Management for Glacier County. And my office is located in the courthouse, and we are exactly about I would say 2 city blocks from the Burlington Northern train tracks, where the crude oil comes through every day. And we are getting about 11 to 16 trains a day of crude oil that goes through here every single day. And the real concerns we have, and just in a nutshell, just to give you a quick rough draft of what our major concerns and what we're prepared for, is basically our concern is public safety. We have to take care of our citizens first. And we do not have the capability, or we are not really prepared to handle a spill of even one of those rail cars. The magnitude of it and the complexity of something like that happening. Our main concern is take care of our citizens first, and that would include evacuation, public notice, warning, and communications. We have some very pristine environment in Glacier County, including Glacier National Park. And the trains go right directly through there over the Marias Pass. That is a major concern. Will it pollute Flathead Lake? Absolutely. It'll pollute the whole North Fork. And they're pristine. You got to look at that. Each rail car has 125 tons of crude oil in it, and 30,000 gallons. I mean, what does it take? 5 of them breaking open? That's 150,000 gallons of crude oil going down to the North Fork and into Flathead. Will it kill Flathead Lake? Very likely. With that much crude oil going down there and it goes into Flathead Lake, yes. The facts are is that we are moving that crude oil through here, and anything could happen.
I'm Stella Shannon, and today we're here in Missoula, Montana, and we're right in front of the Burlington Northern Railroad tracks and just a couple blocks from my house where I live. So today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the oil tanker trains. My primary concern is just, I guess, hearing about all the accidents that have already happened. It's really surprising to me that more action hasn't already been taken. I was reading just this morning about an accident that happened in Canada last year where 47 people were killed, and just thinking about my family, my 2 younger sisters and my parents who still live right here just a few blocks away, and the fact that they would be evacuated, possibly harmed when, these tankers explode, burst into flames, derail from the tracks. That's extremely concerning to me. I think the Department of Transportation estimated, I don't know, something like 10 of these trains derail per year. And so that's an incredible statistic to me, the fact that action hasn't already been taken to protect people in small communities like Missoula or larger cities, or even the incredible wilderness that we have just a couple hours away in Glacier National Park. All of this is a danger because of the trains.
To a fireball, you're just a marshmallow. Stop, drop, and roll, you scarecrows. Boats and mansions don't come cheap, so how dare we have nerve to speak? Stop, drop, and roll, you scarecrows. Methane, butane, propane on your mom. Father, sister, daughter, brother, son.
As a young person, I'm especially concerned about the environment, and with the oil trains bringing the issue even closer to home because it puts my safety at risk also. But I think my main issue with the oil trains is that not only should we be moving away from oil as a resource, but using trains to transport it just increases the issue, tenfold, because we're increasing fossil fuel emissions and carbon emissions as we're transporting this unsustainable fuel in the first place. So, I think one potential solution to begin working on this issue would be keeping the oil in the ground, and in the meantime trying to work to move away from reliance on oil as a fuel. So, for example, wind farms, I've seen, I've traveled up to Great Falls or other places in kind of eastern Montana with my dad, and I've seen wind farms cropping up across this state. That makes me extremely happy, and I don't see why we shouldn't continue growth like that of reliance on renewable energy instead of reliance on oil, and especially oil transported in such an unsustainable way. I would hope that my county here in Missoula would place a moratorium on the transportation of oil using these specific old oil tanks, or at least they could charge for using these cars, and for example, say, I don't know, $500 per car. That would really help to catalyze change. We need this change. If they're not planning on updating the cars until 2020, why wait that long? First of all, we already have these new tankers already exist, and second of all, what are we supposed to do in this community in the next 4 years? We've already seen multiple accidents in the past, just the past year. The transportation of oil has increased from 40% by train to 90% by train, and so I'm not really willing to sit here for the next 4 years and watch extremely dangerous fuel be passed through unreliable cars just a few blocks from my house.
The doctor said to Georgie, your life cannot be saved. Murdered up on a railroad and laid in a lonesome grave. His face was covered up with blood, his eyes you could not see. And the very last words for Georgie said,